The thing has released and there's a lot to go over. Abilities, combos, a little tech, the playstyle, a very potent play loop. There's things that you need to know and do in game. He's ultimate disruption, displacement, a brawler. He's got a great blend of offensive dive, defensive peel, and there's things in his kit that you need to utilize to their fullest extent. He's an extremely, and I mean extremely aggressive hero. If you know me and the channel, I rarely cover things the day of release. I get time with them first, and after the weekend, I've learned a lot. I have a lot to show you about the thing. And as a guide, these are suggestions. Thing is still new. There's more to learn. But the goal here today is to help you have better games with them, understand the character, and start going off. That's the goal. But before we get into it, a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Factor. Factor meals are pre-prepared and ready to eat in 2 minutes or less. Taking the guesswork out of what to make for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Cutting stress from meal planning and extensive prepping. And to me, importantly, cutting time. Because I love to cook. I cook every single day of the week, but there are times where I need to work, I need a break, or I'm gaming. Factor frees up a ton of time when I want more time doing the things that I need to do. I value that. And ready 2 minutes or less, over 35 chef-crafted meals and over 60 add-ons each week. They're meals that are good for you, nutritional. Factor now offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, small bites, more things that fit your schedule. Speaking of schedule, when life gets hectic, Factor's flexible. They have your back. Change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Factor saves time overall, way cheaper and better for you than ordering in. Thanks to Factor75 for sponsoring today's video. Use my link down below at the top of the description or scan the QR code at the top right of the screen. And use my code COOLFEB50 to get 50% off of your first Factor 75 box and free shipping. That's COOLFEB50. Thing is a Vanguard with 700 health, not your traditional tank. Let's actually start with his passive, a wild one, Unyielding Will. Immune to launch up, knockback, and other displacement effects. Exactly what it states. It's a tank that can't be pulled in by Bucky, Spider-Man, knocked up by other things. Mr. Fantastic can't pull him. Invisible Woman can't push him or pull him. If you're inside Jeff's ult, when Jeff spits you out, you just immediately pop out. You don't fly out. Think of him as just a very, very heavy object. In general, can't be launched up, knocked back, or displaced. There's a ton of that in the game. There's no need to go through them. He just counters it. And he counters other things with other abilities that are super cool. He can be stunned though, just at base. You can do things to get around this. But don't get it confused with stunned, like Luna Ice, Mantis Sleep, Squirrel Girl Squirrels. He can be stunned in place, but not moved, essentially. But more on all that later. Next, his primary attack, and the attack combos do combine with some other abilities I'll talk about in the combo section. His primary attack is Rocky Jab, your left click, controller right trigger. Rapidly punch forward. It's a 1-2 punch combo. Each punch deals 40 damage, so 80 total damage. It's got a 4-meter distance, and like other melee characters, it's got a very wide and generous hitbox. You can be to the left, up, right. It's a double strike melee, and between the strikes is 0.33 seconds, but there's a 1 second between sets. So it goes 1-2, pause, 1-2, pause. There's going to be times where you're going to utilize this primary attack and other times that you don't. And again, we're going to cover it all. Because next we have the Stone Haymaker. It's your right click, controller left trigger. To me, his third most important ability, deliver a devastating heavy blow. There's no cooldown. He has a wind up that he hits forward. It deals 90 damage. The attack range is 8 meters. Pretty good for a pretty much pure brawler. But when you activate it, he moves forward 3 meters after that wind up. So its total is 10 meters. That's the attack range. And every single time you activate it, thing gains 50 bonus health during that skill activation. That means if you just hold down the button, that 50 health keeps being reapplied. Very, very good. It also goes through targets, meaning if enemies are lined up, it hits everything in that spell field, in that line of that 8 meters. And a couple things about it. One, pretty much view this as your main attack. Not because it's necessarily better than his primary, the 1-2 punch. It's because this is your range on thing. Enemies are going to be jumping, trying to get away. This is how you reach out and touch them. Because he lunges 3 meters and he attacks 8 meters. You want it for the range. It's a better chance for successful hits. There's nothing like trying to do the primary attack and just missing, and this Haymaker would have hit. Big difference between 10 meters of total range and 4 meters. And the second thing, you get free health after using this attack. Why not abuse that until you can't? We'll talk about this in the combo section. Next, Embattled Leap. Your E on a controller's top left bumper. I view this as the second most important ability for the thing. Jump forward to your ally and apply damage reduction to both of you once it connects. It's a targeted attack, meaning you're going to see it pop up on allies. It's got a 20-meter leap distance, which is great. And you're within that leap distance if you see it on your ally. That means you can jump to them. Once you press the button, you fly and leap to them. Once you hit them, you're going to see rocks form around you and your ally. And for 3 seconds, both of you gain 30% damage reduction. which is massive. You're going to use this all the time. It's got a basic cooldown of 3 seconds and a charge rate of 10 seconds per use. So meaning 2 cooldowns go off once you use it. First is the 3-second cooldown before you can use the second charge, and the other is a 10-second cooldown that's starting to get the charge back. So one is the charge, and the other one is basically an anti-spam cooldown. You can use it primarily one of 2 ways. One, to dive on your front line to help them. It's the same thing you do with Mr. Fantastic, because you're diving on a friendly Thor, Captain America. At this point, you've met them at the front line, you both have damage reduction for 3 seconds, so you can start putting in your work. The second way is to protect your support and healers. Say they're getting dove, or they're low health, you can give them damage reduction and help them out. And a lot of times you're going to dive in on the tank, do damage, and get out by going to your back line with this ability. It is great. And there's another way to use it as well that we're going to get into with the combo section. A very cool playstyle starting to form. Next is the Yancy Street Charge. And I feel by far Thing's #1 most important ability. It's what allows all the plays with Thing to happen. It's your shift, top right bumper on controller, continuously charge forward, launching up enemies and leaving behind a zone at the final position that prevents the use of mobility abilities. This ability does so much. It's kind of broken. It's a 100% movement boost, meaning the base 6 meters a second doubles. So he goes 12 meters a second, like the thing's flying with the charge. When you activate the ability, immediately you gain 200 bonus health during the skill activation, and it lasts for 5 seconds. So press the button, he starts to charge, you get the extra health. You can move left and right, but the movement is kind of delayed, making it hard to control. But there are certain patterns you're going to want to do with this. When you press the button again, he slams the ground. And then you'll see rocks on the ground that are there for a couple seconds. First things first, I do have hold the dash on. And I encourage you to do so too, because this means with just a button press, he slams the ground instantly. You don't have to double press it. And also you have more control on how far you dash and when you want to slam. So if it's only just a couple meters, press the button, hold it, release when you want to slam. And with pressing it, you can do it centrally right at your feet, which is something you're going to want for combos later on. While charging, when you hit an enemy for a knockback, it deals 30 damage to them. If you hit them with the ground slam, it does 20 damage. And then the zone itself deals 15 damage a second. And we'll talk about each one of these separately. First of all, the charge itself. With the charge, remember how earlier with the passive, we talked about you can't be knocked, moved, but you can be stunned? Well, while charging, you can't be stunned, which is crazy. When you're in the Yancy Street Charge, you basically can't be CC'd. What does that mean? Let's take the Eye of Agamotto, Doctor Strange. When you hear his voice line go off, as long as you're charging, you won't get stunned. And even importantly, you could knock him back and save your teammates from the stun, which is wild. Something like the Groot ult. I mean, earlier, we'll take a part of his passive, it will stun you, but you won't be pulled in to Groot's ult. However, if you're charging, you won't even get hit by it. Things like Mantis with her sleep. If you're charging, you can't be slept. Luna Snow, the freeze. If you're charging, you can't be frozen. A Jeff ult, you see it on the ground, just start charging, Jeff can't take you with his ult. A very, very powerful thing. Anything that would stun you otherwise. That could be the Dark Seal from Scarlet Witch, the Soul Drainer from Hela. Anything that stuns will not stun you if you're charging. Penny, when she's in her ultimate, first of all, since you can't be knocked up, as she's running her mines, you're not going to be knocked up, but you're going to take damage from the mines. But if you start charging in her minefield, it's an Uno reverse. You're going to start knocking her up because of the knockback mechanic of the Yancy Street Charge. Very, very cool. Main thing to take away. This isn't its main use, but it's a huge reason why the Yancy Street Charge is his best ability. You counter a lot of ults with it, you cannot be stunned. It's got a 10-second cooldown as you charge into enemies. You displace them, pop them up. Each time, you deal 30 damage. So if you were to just pop them up and circle around and hit them again, that's another 30 damage. At the end of the charge, either by duration or you end it early, you slam the ground. 8-meter radius on that slam, it is massive, it deals 20 damage. And you leave rocks on the ground that ticks 2 times. Each tick is 15 damage, but these rocks make your enemies not able to use their movement abilities. They get what's called Earthbound. We're going to call it the Earthbound debuff. If they touch it, either they're hit by it or they walk through it, they can't use any movement abilities. And there's a little bit of a timer once they exit. And if they use a movement ability to get into it, it takes them out of it. Like Psylocke, no dashing. Kind of have to jump, get away from it, and then you can start using the dash magic. She can't go into limbo, can't use those stepping discs. She can't use her dash, nothing. Moon Knight can't double jump, uses grapple. You name it, if it has movement, it stops it. And that's what's really nice. You can slam one of these enemies and know that they can't use their movement to get away, so you and your team can deal damage on them. And where it really comes up are the divers. Black Panther, Spider-Man. If they touch this field, their movement abilities, for the most part, that's their damage. So if you stop a Black Panther's dash, you kind of shut down the combo. Spider-Man has a jump, get out of the field, web away. But even in just regular combat, just slamming an enemy, doesn't matter who it is, you're taking that away from them, and you're making them take damage from you and your team for a second or two. And most of the time from you, it's going to be your Haymaker, because it reaches the furthest. And since you're hold to dash now, let's say your 2 supports, they're being dove by a Black Panther, whatever. You leap onto one of them, give them the damage reduction, and immediately slam. So whatever's diving, they're going to come into that field, and when they do that, the dive stopped. And that field's 8 meters around, but 4 meters tall. So even if they just kind of glide over it, again, like that Psylocke, it's going to work. So this is an ability that gives you more health. It moves enemies at will, knocks them around. It stops you from getting CC'd. Can't be slept, can't be frozen. You can avoid things like Jeff Ult's Eye of Agamotto. When you slam enemies, it stops their movement abilities. It knocks them up when slammed. So not only can they get knocked up by the dash, but then knocked up again by the slam. And it plays a big part of your combos. It's a great ability. And before I get into those combos, there's a couple more things to go through. The team ups, you can throw Wolverine just like Hulk. And this is actually really great because you can throw Wolverine and then immediately leap right behind him, meaning both of you are diving something. It doesn't even have to be a tank. You both get damage resist. You're both dealing damage. Really, really good. Then with Invisible Woman, like Mr. Fantastic, you pop this before battle, in battle, lasts for 5 seconds. You continually generate bonus health, making up for lost health, 5 health a second. It's just nice to have. Then we have his ultimate clobbering time, and the voice actor did it justice. Really, really good job. Use immense power to launch up all enemies in front of the thing into the air. It deals 100 damage, but it's a stun. After they're hit, they're stunned for 2.5 seconds. And when he throws this out, it is 18 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 3 meters high. It's great to set up combos, like Bucky as an example. Throw it out, stun everything in front of you, Bucky can start going again. But just in general, like you can stun a team and your team can just wail on them for those 2.5 seconds. And one of the best things to do is to charge into their back line, find their supports, clobbering time them, and use it on those strategists. And if you get one, that's a great ult. But even if you don't, say they somehow both survived or one was about to go down and they got healed up. I mean, you took away healing from their team for 5 or more seconds. So it's a good ult no matter what, in my opinion. And it's got a great place in the game. So now onto the playstyle in combos. Here's the deal. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but there's a difference between playing a character great and playing the role of a character great. And the thing about this is that even if you don't play the character that good, but play the role great, you're going to be fine. On the other hand, you can play the character great, but if you don't play that character's role great, your team's going to struggle, if that makes sense. For the thing, I've noticed it is role first, then the character mastery comes. But when you have them both down, the thing is a force. And we're going to start off with, he's a horrible solo tank. You can make it work with Mr. Fantastic, but you really, really need another one with you. Captain America is perfect because he wants to dive too. Thor is great, but honestly, any other tank, you need a partner. I'm going to show you why. The thing's main job, his expertise, is creating space. He's incredible at that. So where I want to start is what I believe is his bread and butter combo, and it's not even really an attack. Wherever your front line is, your front line tank, you're going to dive them with the leap. If you don't have a front line, you're going to dive the closest ally you have to the enemies. After you do that, you're immediately going to charge the enemy. And why would you do that? What's happening with this? You need to kind of really realize what's going on when you do this. Number one, you leaped, so you have 30% damage reduction, and then you charge. Well, with the charge, you get 200 extra health. But since you have DR for those 3 seconds, you effectively have 1,170 health. And your goal is to create space and disrupt. Get the strategists off their healing lines. Get tanks moved to the side of the front line. You go in, and you're going to circle back. When it's over, you leap to the closest ally. That could be that tank, or it could be a support. And any damage that you took is either soaked up by the damage reduction, the extra 200 health, and when you come back to your team, or that frontline tank, you've given yourself damage reduction again, and you're going to get healed. I'm not going to say you're unkillable, but very close. If you have the out, you won't go down. If you have the jump back leap. I have never died doing this unless nobody's there, because you're moving at 12 meters a second. You're flying. You cannot be stunned. You cannot be CC'd. You're popping them in the air. And sometimes, like right here, very start of the game, the Captain America jumped out. I immediately leaped on the Captain America, and then I started to charge. I did a little circle, came back, and I dove a support. Since they were being popped up, my team did damage on them. Their tank got weak, so we took out their tank. And you're going to notice here, we have a Mr. Fantastic, there's a Cap. Melee characters are Thing's friend. And let me tell you, melee characters want to be with the Thing. Like Magic can go off if she's with the Thing. Mr. Fantastic's great because he can chest bump the Thing to give him bonus health, and the Thing can chest bump him to give him extra damage resist. But with Thing, you cause a lot of disruption. And in turn, what should be going on for your team is this. Look at this Bucky. This is just a random player I was playing with in Quick Play. I did what I talked about. I hit the closest ally near them. I immediately charged in and I just started bouncing them around, disrupting them. I was doing a circle, just hit them over and over. Fish in the barrel for the Bucky. The Bucky is just picking them off. And when this is all done correctly, this is what should happen. That's the overall goal, that your team's doing this to those popped up enemies. Because again, I'm a threat. The reticle's moving up and down from being popped. It's kind of ruining their positioning. It's great. Or this Moon Knight noticed what was going on. He threw an Unk in the center of them. They aren't really focused on it. Again, I'm the threat. So as they're being popped around, easy kills. Or like I said, again, a magic. Magic diving with you is great because everyone's getting knocked up and around and the magic's just using the discs and going everywhere. This is where the Thing excels. One of the most important things you can do, but you have to have people on board. I'm telling you, Thing wants to play extremely aggressive, but there has to be a second. And not only that, the Thing has to go second. I would play random quick play matches and say there was a Thor. You need the Thor to dive first. The Thor has to dive first, or the Captain America, because right after they dive, you're on their hip. You leap to them, you both have damage resist, you both wail on them. You can't be first. So in a lot of matches, they're waiting for me, the Thing, to kind of do the opening break. It can't happen. So a lot of the times, the Thing has to dive the other tank. That makes everyone happy. The other tank gets damage resist, and the Thing just start doing whatever he wants, either by charge or helping with offense. But he cannot be first. So as far as this little damage resist charge, if you want to charge in, circle around, then jump back to your front line, that's great. I do this a ton. Creating a little space, disrupting the enemy team, or maybe going in to find out where a penny nest is, whatever. But if the opportunity is there, if you have an out, meaning you can leap back, and the strategist is said right there, one or both of them slam the support because they become immobile, they start trying to heal each other, and the Thing's very good at getting to support, getting on them and taking them out. Because after you slam them, you start hitting them with haymakers. But by far, this is the most important thing you can do with him. Using the charge as disruption, having that DR. But you also need to attack. It is all distance-based. As I stated earlier, the Haymaker is basically your main attack because it's the most distance, and it can hit multiple enemies in a line. And you think of the Thing as a boxer. Kind of has that persona anyway. When you Haymaker, he lunges in. So if you're already kind of close, he's going to vacuum right onto the enemy. At that point, you're basically, quote, in the pocket. You're there. So you're going to follow up with that primary attack, the little 1-2 punch. If the Haymaker pulls you close enough so you're in your primary range, follow up with the primaries. Otherwise, it's just Haymakers. Because at this point, as far as DPS, Haymaker than primary is better than Haymaker over and over and over. One does 90, the other one does 80, but the 80s come out a little bit faster, and you're already right there. And that's what's easy about the Thing. If you're right on top, you're going to Haymaker primary, or Haymaker primary, primary. It's all distance space. It's not really too important, but that's your basic punch combo. We can also add in the charge. Say you do have a charge ready, the dash. The dash has multiple damage points to it. 30 points from a knockup, 20 from the slam, and 15 per second on the floor. So it's important that you get as much of that damage as you can. But note, you can also do the charge from the air, meaning you can jump, press the dash. And I like doing this for a couple reasons. One, it makes you more unpredictable because on their screen, you're gonna jump up, they're gonna look down, then they're immediately gonna get knocked up. It's jarring. Two, you want to do as much damage as possible. And 3, if you jump onto them, it actually kicks them up even higher in the air. So on the other end, if you're on the ground right next to them, sometimes one of them can miss, either the charge or the slam, mostly the slam. Like, listen for the hits, what does hit and what does not hit. Let's rumble. Opposed to jumping with the charge. It's doing a better job of guaranteeing both hits, basically. And the upside, again, is you knock them up even higher, and that's even better for your team. Again, fish in a barrel. So your main offensive combo of punches is Haymaker, primary, charge slam, primary. For me, I found the best results is Haymaker primary, jump charge slam primary. And sometimes if they're far away or they're way up in the air, you're going to end with the Haymaker instead of another primary. Like, again, it's all distance based. It's up to you. But honestly, with the Thing, his kill combos is basically just pure attrition, if that makes sense. That's what I've learned from playing the Thing. All you're really doing is winning the battle of attrition, either by A, making them immobile, like really slowing them down, kind of chipping at them, or B, outlasting them with your damage resist, your big chunk damage of 90 Haymakers, disrupting them, taking away some of their tools. And your best bet is to pocket another tank. Get in and get out. He has very, very high crowd control with his disruption, and I can see the thing becoming a great hero as the game goes on, as it settles in, but it is about understanding the character, the strengths, and the weaknesses. I mean, one of his main weaknesses is flat out, he's massive. He doesn't have true tank stuff, like he doesn't have a shield, he doesn't have a lot of range. Do yourself and your team a favor, just don't be walking around freely. Because what you are is easy ult charge for a Bucky or a Storm. They can just keep hitting you over and over. That's how I feel playing Groots when they don't wall. He's weak to flying enemies, of course, but hopefully your team has some answers to those. Your role is disruption, and Thing currently is one of the best in the game at that. Ideally, you're going to chill, wait for a tank to be on the front line, or dive the front line or back line, and then dive them. You guys do your thing and you get out. Or just knock their front line around, disrupt them. He's awesome. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, I really appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Let's talk about the thing down below, what your thoughts are. As always, share any and all tips down below. Help each other out. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.